Testing, testing.
Good judgment, I know I have good taste. It's funny and it's ironic that only I feel that way.
Good afternoon and welcome. Good afternoon and welcome. Joe Williamson's the best.
All right. Well, I think we are live right now. So we're going to go ahead and get started and kind of go through what the plan and overview is for today. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Joel Williamson with Weens and Roth Real Estate. Today we're going to hear from Pete Perna and Jacob Boes with Union Home Mortgage. Unfortunately, Jenny is sick at home, but she's in the chat, so she's going to be kind of chatting with everybody that's online and kind of maybe answering some questions that you might have. So if you're online right now, feel free to ask your questions in the chat and she'll be engaging with you then. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about what we're going to be doing today. We have the plan for today is we'll talk about a little bit about who we are. We're going to do a quick market update. We're going to talk about our listing services and buying services. So let's jump right in. Well, you're here because you want to figure out what unlocking real estate success looks like. So you want to know who we are. So founded in Lambertville, Michigan by Aaron and Melanie Weens, they set to be a little bit different than what the real estate industry has been for the past 50 years. They wanted to kind of change the industry and go from more of a relational based to transactional. They wanted to make sure that they were building into people's lives, building relationships long term rather than just a single transaction. And so everything they do is kind of based on that model. You're going to get the same service whether you're listing a $50,000 home or a $5 million home, because we believe in offering top quality service throughout the whole process. So let's do a brief market update here. So the market in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan is still strong and stable. We still have some of the most affordable housing in the USA. So we've seen other parts of even though prices have gone up here, they haven't skyrocketed as much as other states. So it's still very affordable to live here comparatively. The average sale price in Monroe County is $261,000. That's up 4.3% since 2023. Inventory is steadily increasing by 10% since 2023. Less than 296 houses for sale currently. And then month supply of homes increased from 3 to 2.3. So that means the house that sit on the market for a month at a time. So what are the causes of our home prices and everything? So we have supply and demand. Of course, if the supply is low and the demand is high, prices are going to go up. Lack of new construction, we've seen a major decrease in new construction since 2008, and that's never rebounded since that time. There was 98,000 home builders in 2008, and now we're sitting about 40,000, and that's nationwide. Historic low interest rates during COVID increased. Everybody was out there buying, so you had competition that drove prices up. And then there's increased trend in home investments. People saw the Instagram, Pinterest, all that stuff. People were seeing everybody else was making money off investment properties. Why can't I do it too? So you had increased rentals and Airbnbs. So all that combined was pushing housing prices up. But it's still, in our market, somewhat affordable, somewhat attainable compared to everywhere else. Now, why list with Weens and Roth Real Estate? There's a lot of different brokers out there, but what makes us different? What sets us apart? What makes your experience that much better? So we're going to go through the whole process from start to finish of what we do, walking you through getting your house ready to sell and what we do offer that makes it better above the rest. So if you're thinking of getting ready to sell, you're going to think, okay, what repairs should I tackle? What items should I let go? Does my home need to be updated? And these are important things to ask, and that's why it's important to have your real estate agent come to your house, talk to you and say, hey, should I put that $30,000 new roof in? Should I install a pool? Should I upgrade the kitchen? Should I paint? We're going to be able to walk you through and say, hey, these are the items that you definitely should do. These are going to give you a big return. Some of these items, probably not. You don't want to touch those because you're not going to get your money back out of it ever. Some of the items that we always encourage, curb appeal. Get that front door painted. Make sure the landscaping's great. Make sure your rooms are painted. They're not scuffed up. You don't want bright, crazy colors that are going to detract people. I always use this example, but if you're a crazy Buckeye fan and you live in Ann Arbor, maybe paint that room because it's going to probably turn some people off, right? So you want to neutralize your house, make it most attractive to the most broad audience. So this is the list I was just going over. Fresh paint, touching up your trim can go a long way. A lot of people look at your trim as an indicator of how clean you keep your house. So they're going to walk in and they see, oh, there's nasty trim. They're going to be like, oh, these are kind of nasty people. What else are they hiding? Fix any leaky pipes. Anything that might have a water leak, water stains. You want to address those. They're usually quick to fix. You want to make sure there's no active leaks. But those are things that are going to clue buyers in right away that there's something going on in your house. Again, touch up grout and caulking in kitchen and bathrooms. Kitchen and bathrooms sell. You want to make sure those look very nice. You want to make sure they look well maintained and taken care of. Consider having carpets and grout professionally cleaned. Guys, a couple $100 to get your carpets shiny, brand spanking new. It's gonna, and even getting that smell out. Perhaps you have dogs, so you want to make sure that they walk in, that feels inviting, they feel like they could bring their couch in, sit down, and feel right at home. And I touched on curb appeal already, but you want that first impression. That's why they call it a first impression. You only get it once. So when they walk up to your house, you want to make sure it's inviting. You want to make sure it feels warm and attractive. And the way the front of the house looks, the way they step in is going to set the stage for the whole rest of the showing. Easy fixes in your kitchen, new cabinet hardware, updated faucet. This is not a whole renovation. These are small things you can do to get your house, make a big difference at minimal cost. And consider your price point. So this is a lot of things we talk about is, oh, should I add that fifth bath or bedroom? You know, more bedrooms is better, right? Not always. You know, if you may not get that return based on the neighborhood. Should I put a $30,000 bathroom in? Maybe if you're in a house or a neighborhood that has $2 million homes, but probably not always. So after we've got your house, we've gone through the list, this is what we do to get your house ready for marketing. And I always tell people, Weens and Roth, yes, we're a full-service brokerage, but we're also we dip our toes into the marketing because we're going to do a whole plan to make your house so marketable that people are just going to salivate over it. And one of the first things I always encourage is professional staging. And as you can see on our TV here, that homes that are professionally staged are 3 to 30 times more likely to sell faster, and they can increase the sale price by up to 5%. And that's a big difference. So what we do is we offer home staging consultations, whether you have a vacant home or you have an occupied house, you're still living there. So we bring a home stager in and say, hey, make my house look picture ready. I want it to look HGTV ready, okay? So she's gonna create a list for you, walk you through it, and say, these are your punch list items. Before we send our photographer in, let's do all these items. And sometimes it's as simple as moving a couple pieces of furniture around to maximize the space of the room. Sometimes it's, hey, we got to get Grandpa's lazy boy chair that's been there for 60 years. We got to get that out of here. Those are some of the things that they're going to do to really make your home as marketable as possible. There's also if you have a vacant home, one discussion we like to have is, should we have a staging company fill your house with some furniture? We want it to feel lived in and inviting, and especially if you have a house that has maybe some odd rooms, some rooms that are maybe a little bit harder to visualize. We talk about how can we make that space, stage it in a way that people can imagine, oh yeah, actually, yeah, our couch would fit well in here. I love how they have it set up. So the staging kind of sells a lifestyle. It sells, when they come in, they can see how everything looks perfect. And that's what we're trying to do, whether it's staging with a staging company that brings in furniture or staging with your stuff. We're trying to sell a lifestyle. We're trying to set your home up in a way when they walk in, they feel like they could just plop down. It feels like home. Professional interior and drone photography. Most people are viewing your home online before they ever step foot. And that's why professional interior photos are so important. It's always discouraging to me when I see a beautiful house and I see photos that are done by a cell phone that are not done properly. I really feel like it does a disservice to the seller. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure you've gone on Zillow and you'll be like, man, this house, it looks like it could be a nice house, but the photos are rough. And then you look at another house, beautiful professional photographer or photos, and you're like, that's stunning, that's amazing. I want to go look at that house right now. It really makes a big difference. I would never, ever claim to be a professional photographer. I would not come out and say, hey, I'm going to do the best photos for you. That is not my profession. My job is to market and sell your house. And I know when to hand off roles to professionals. And that's what we do here at Wiens & Roth. We hire professional photographers that are going to come in. They know exactly what to do to frame each room. We do video walkthroughs. You see a lot of them now with vertical, like reels on Instagram and TikTok, where that shows walking through your house. We do those. We do aerial photography. We bring in drones so you can get an aerial bird's eye view of your home, the lot. And doing all those things together really captures your house from all different angles. It gets what it's like to live there, to see it from above, and it beautifies your home. The other thing we do is floor plans and 3D tours. I've had in 2024 more out-of-state buyers than I've had anywhere or any time previously. A lot of buyers are wanting to move back to family, and they say, hey, Joel, I want to look this house up. Can you go there and check it out? And the cool thing about what we do is we have 3D tours, we have floor plans. So when you list your house, you're going to get a floor plan and 3D tour that's going to be put up on the listing. So people will be able to click through and walk through your house from across the country. It's such a great feature to have. It really highlights your home before they even set foot in it. So then they can call me and say, hey, I saw this great house. We've already walked through it virtually. We want you to go check it out. It's a great asset to have. And of course, having that floor plan really takes the guesswork out of what your house offers. And so you get buyers that are coming through your house that are already prepared. They know what they're walking into. They're not going to be looky-loos because they know exactly what they're coming in there for. And then finally, pricing it right. We've had a market where it seems like 1 month it's through the roof, the next month it's a little bit slower. So we always try to price ahead of that market. So we kind of pay attention to the trends and say, okay, we're kind of feeling like it's softening, or hey, there's rates just dropped. We're kind of feeling like we're heading into spring, it's going to go crazy. We try to price ahead of that a little bit, but not. The biggest thing you can do is pricing your house too expensive, and it causes your house to be stagnant, stale. People start talking, that house is way too expensive, I would never. So we like to price it just right in the market. And that gives the most competitive advantage to you, because you're going to get the most people that say, hey, that's a great deal. Everything else is selling for that. Let's go check it out. They're going to come in your house, fall in love with all the other marketing we've done, and offer you a great price. One of these strategies we've done in the past few years is list the house slightly under market. And that is because we're not chasing that high dollar, we market it slightly under, and it encourages more buyers to come in. And because we've done a great job with the staging, the photographer, and all that stuff, they're going to come in and fall in love with your house, and now they're invested, and now they can't leave without writing an offer. So that's why we like to make sure we're pricing it. If the market's saying here, we want to price it right here. So those are a few things we do when it comes to getting your home ready for selling. We talked about pricing it right, photography, staging, 3D tour, all those things. And that's a whole plan. Before we even get to listing your house, we are going to set out and do all those things to accomplish to give you the best results. So let's say we get your house listed. Now let's go through the timeline, what to expect. So we have coming soon and active listing. So coming soon is something they've added a few years ago, where your house is officially on the market, but it's not available for showing yet. So this is a way to encourage people that are shopping online, doing all the Zillow stuff, where they might be getting notifications where it kind of triggers and say, hey, this house is in my category. I'm going to flag it. Gives them time to hunt down their agent and do some scheduling. So when we do coming soons, I like to do anywhere from 3 to 7 days out. Any longer than that, I think in Ohio you can do up to 14 days. And I don't like that when you go that high because I feel like the excitement about the new listing has worn off. So we like to do a coming soon 3 to 7 days. And then they still have that excitement, and it still allows them to work it into their schedule where they can coordinate their showings. Once showings have started, though, the biggest challenge is keeping your home show ready. And especially if you have kids, you know, there's going to be times where the toys are out and you're going to get a call, say, hey, someone wants to come to a showing. And we like to coordinate and work best with you and say, hey, do you need an hour lead time, 2-hour lead time, 24-hour lead time? What works best for you? We can assure that buyers can see your house, but we're not disrupting your life too much. But we also want to make sure that you always have in the back of your mind, hey, I got to keep my house show ready at a moment's notice because that could be the next buyer coming in that's going to write you a great offer. Okay, let's say you got your house up on the market. We've had a bunch of showings, and we got an offer that we love. Congratulations, that's great. Hopefully we get multiple offers. That's even better. If we priced it right in our market, we've seen that a lot, where we're getting maybe 2, 3, sometimes more offers. And anytime you can do that, now you have a platter of offers to choose from, and the seller always wins. Once the offer comes in, we'll sit down and we'll go over those offers with you. We'll lay them out in front of you and say, here are all the terms, the price. We'll discuss timeline, the type of financing they're offering, any inspection contingencies, any seller concessions. Escalation clauses, we've seen a lot of those, appraisal gaps, waivers, and any additional contingencies like home sales or whatever. We'll go over all those and say, okay, out of all these things, what works best for you? Are you okay with maybe taking a little bit less on the price because they're offering you more occupancy? You can stay in your house longer after it sells. Or maybe this one's waiving the inspection, but their offer's a little less. That might be attractive to you also. Or maybe this one's way higher, and they're offering an appraisal gap, but they need you to move out like the day of closing. So there's all those things we'll weigh, and we'll go over those things, and so you can take the offer that's best for you. One of the things we've been seeing a lot, and I'll touch briefly on, is escalation clauses and appraisal gaps. So escalation clauses are where you might get an offer and it says, your house is listed at $300,000. You get an offer. It says, here's an offer for $300,000, but we're going to escalate up to $350,000, and we're going to outbid any other offer by X amount of dollars. Let's say $1,000. So what that means is, if another offer comes in at $310,000, this first offer automatically goes ahead of that other offer by $1,000. That's a great thing to have for a seller. Now, the one thing I always want to talk to my sellers about is, hey, we got to make sure these offers are comparable and they are really, one is truly going to escalate over the other. And we'll talk about that. But that is a great thing for sellers, that it allows them to review those escalations and say, okay, this one's 300, but this one's 315, but this one goes over this one, and this one goes over this one. So a lot of those things, when you're working with the agent, is going to be able to say, okay, at the end of the day, after all these things move, this is what you're going to end up with at the end of the day. And then appraisal gaps. So we've seen houses go way over asking. You've probably heard it. I'm sure you've had friends that said, I had to pay $50,000 over just to get my house. Well, we've had issues where the house might underappraise. So what that means is this $300,000 house, you offered $350,000, they accepted it, and now the appraiser comes out and he says, hey, this house is only worth $330,000. Uh-oh. So the bank is only going to lend on that certain amount. Now there's a gap between what the bank is going to lend and what our purchase price is. We got to figure out how to close that gap. There's a few ways to do that. We can drop our price to meet that appraisal. We can ask the seller to bring more cash, or the buyer to bring more cash to closing. We can do a combination where the seller drops and the buyer comes up. So there's ways to get around that. But just know that if you get offers that are way over asking, that is always something to keep in the back of the head. Are we going to have appraisal issues? Okay, home inspection. Now, if you went through the checklist that prior to listing, where we said, hey, these are the things you're going to want to check out. Now, you probably already know your house better than anyone else. So maybe you know what things go to get flagged during a home inspection. But typically, unless the house is brand spanking new, even then we see them. But typically, you're going to find something in the home inspection when they come out and inspect your house. Don't worry, that's their job. Their job is to find something. Whether it's big or little, there's always ways to work around that. Now, usually most agents are advised to any health and safety items, we are going to ask for those, okay? So I always tell my sellers, don't be surprised if there's a health and safety item that they ask for. It could be electrical, it could be water intrusion, which could lead to mold. It could be a few other things. But don't be just surprised if the health and safety items are their top priority, because that's how I advise as well. They may request items to be repaired, a price reduction. They may ask for cash back at closing to help cover closing costs. So if they come with an inspection addendum and say, hey, we need $5,000 for the mold issue, we can resolve that in a few different ways. You know, we could do a $5,000 price reduction. We could pay for the mold to be treated, or we could do maybe a seller concession where we pay for some of the closing costs. Now, if you don't want to agree to those terms, the deal can be terminated at that point if both sides can't come to agreement during the home inspection period. So I briefly touched on appraisal, but after the home inspection, you're going to have the appraisal. The appraisal is the way for the bank to verify that the money they're lending is a lower risk, because they want to make sure the asset that you're purchasing is what it's worth. So they're going to send out an appraiser who's going to compare your house to the houses in the area. They're going to come up with their number, and they're going to submit that to the bank or your lender. And the lender is going to then say, okay, the appraisal number is good, we're good to go, or the appraisal number is low. So if it's low, then we got to resolve that somehow. And that's some of the things we talked about earlier. It can be a point of negotiation. So if an appraisal comes back, like I said, doesn't mean the deal's dead. If it comes back low, it means that we might need to renegotiate. You don't necessarily have to stick with a bad appraisal too. There are ways to appeal appraisals. There are ways for your agent to fight for if you think the appraisal is wrong. And it's pretty common to see multiple appraisals from different appraisers come in at different values. So one appraiser might value it up here, and the other one might value it here. So it's not uncommon to get that. Typically, I always advise the appraisal to happen right after home inspection. We want to get past the inspection period and then trigger the appraisal period. And then after the appraisal time is over, we have what's called the celebration day or the clear to close day. Once the appraisal is in, the underwriting department goes over final review, and they send, once everything checks out, and they say, okay, all the numbers match up. We feel like we can move forward with funding this loan. We get the clear to close. When we get the clear to close, your agent will reach out to you and say, hey, we're clear. The buyer wants to schedule, and we coordinate scheduling times with the title company. At closing, you'll sign your paperwork, but right before closing, the buyer usually sends a walkthrough. And they have 48 hours to do that. They'll come right before, make sure the house is still standing, make sure there's no major damages. They want to make sure that the house that they offered on 30 days ago still looks the same. Typically expect to spend about an hour at a closing. Sometimes they're much faster. Sometimes, but the average is probably 40 minutes to 60 minutes. And then if your buyer gets keys at closing, that's when you hand off the keys right when they sign the paperwork, or if there's some occupancy. Then the buyer and seller coordinate, say if it's 15 days or 30 days, they coordinate with their agents and say, okay, as we get closer to exchanging keys, we'll keep communicating and we'll work out a day and time to exchange our keys. And that's it. That is a brief overview of the selling process. And from start to finish, you can expect the whole thing, if it's a funded a loan, expect the whole thing to last probably 30, 45 days. If it's cash, typically it's much sooner, about 2 weeks, maybe less. And just remember, when you're dealing with Wiens and Roth, you're going to we're not just coming out, taking pictures that same day and listing. We have a plan. We're going to market your house. It's going to take a little bit of time, 7 to 8 days is what I usually say. By the time we come out, sign the listing contract, get our stager in there, and then photos and 3D tour. I'd plan for 7, 8, maybe 10 days to get all that ready, but it's going to pay off. You're going to have a beautiful home that's going to attract lots of views, and that all those views are going to turn into more showings, and there's more showings are going to get more offers, and that's our goal for you. That kind of briefly 30,000-foot overview of why listing with Wiens and Roth is so valuable to you. Is there any questions in the chat before we move on to the buyer section? Let me look. Hold on. Whoops. Hold on. At least it locked up in a good position for me. I look somewhat nice.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Sorry about
Sorry
that,
about
guys.
that, guys. Technology.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Back.
You're back?
We're back.
We're back.
All right. We're
All
back
right,
on.
we're back on.
So again, we're going to bring on Pete. He's going to go over kind of why you should bring on an agent. Why it's so important to have an agent as your advocate. Pete, why don't you come on up?
All right, good afternoon.
So I'm going to review with you, go over my part of the presentation here, the short 3 slides. And I'm going to be talking today about why you should have a buyer's agent if you're a buyer shopping for a home. We'll talk about shopping for a home, why it's a good idea. I've been presented the question, or I've seen buyers just say, hey, I'll contact, I saw this great looking home, and I'll just go out and see if I can get a hold of the listing agent. I'm here to talk about what you're missing out on if you take that approach. What you're really giving heed to or way to, because when you go to the seller's agent, they might be polite and seem like they're going to be helpful to you, but at the end of the day, their client is the seller of that property, that home. And they're actually signing a written agreement that says they're going to be loyal to the seller. And not necessarily, it doesn't say anything in there about being loyal to the buyer, and that they're going to try to work as hard as they can for the seller to get them the best and highest possible price, in addition to the best possible terms. And that's an advantage of the seller. It certainly doesn't help use the buyer. So having an agent represent you and being 100% loyal to you and working for your best interest is, the best possible scenario to be in your shop when you're looking to buy a house.
I'm going to, they're saying that audio is echoing some. Hang tight. And I want to make sure everyone can hear you very
well. Okay. Is that, let's test that now.
Okay, how does this sound now?
Is that better?
Is it better?
Give it a second. Sorry guys, technology. Working it out. Hello. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, still an echo out there, or how does it sound now?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
They haven't responded that it's bad. So.
All right, let's continue on here. So my first slide says buyer's agent, your secret weapon. It can be your secret weapon if, both sides are buyer and buyer's agent are working together seamlessly and, to give you the advantage once you find a home. Your agent is not just a door opener. So you want somebody who's going to be able to share advice with you and help you through the entire process and not just unlock a door and say, hey, go ahead and take a look. I'll be out here when you get back, when you're done. Buyer's agents look out for you in many ways. I've got this infographic here on the slide. I believe there's 8 total support boxes that talk about, what kind of value you should expect from having a buyer's agent on your side. And let's take a little deeper dive into that, on the value proposition. So first of all, by having a buyer's agent, you enjoy a low-stress buying process. There's 9 to 10 steps in the buying process from when you first start talking about or thinking about looking for a house all the way till you're at the closing table and you're signing to officially take ownership of the property. And having somebody as a guide, a consultant, a counselor, you can apply any of that terminology to what a buyer's agent brings you. They're all of those things, and having somebody to hold your hand through all of those steps only helps you at the end of the day. It really does pay off. And the other thing you enjoy is having someone with more tools that can provide a wider selection of homes that could potentially meet what you're looking for. There's this database, this very large database called the MLS, Multiple Listing Service, that brokerages participate in, and it houses all these listings, and an agent has access. That's not something that the general public has access to, although that does filter up or flow up to some online sites. Sometimes you just don't get, you don't get all the information that's in that MLS database, but an agent has that. So a very good asset and another tool that can be used to help you in your search. And not only do you probably spend plenty of time looking on those sites to try to find homes that appeal to you, but an agent can be doing that as well in another system that you don't have access to. The other thing is exclusive listings. So I could be talking to Joel and Jenny and saying, you know, I've looked in the database, I'm having a heck of a time finding exactly what my buyer is looking for, you know. Okay, Joel would say, you know, what's your buyer want? What are they looking for? They want a, you know, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on an acre, and they'd really like to have a swimming pool and an extra pole barn. And then Joel or Jenny could be listening and say, hey, I've got a listing appointment coming up, and I believe the house has all those features. So before it even hits market, that's what an exclusive listing is she has a potential client that's going to be asking her to sell a house, and I've got a buyer, so we can match them up before it hits market and before you get that competition in from other buyers, and all of a sudden, you know, potentially what could happen is the price starts going up because then you get multiple parties interested. But you know, sometimes those arrangements can be worked before that even happens or takes place. So that's exclusive listings, and that's also something that you can gain. You can enjoy having the negotiation expertise that comes from someone respectively doing it repetitively over, you know, each day of their career. So, you know, if we counted how many times as agents that we're negotiating on behalf of somebody, whether it's a buyer or seller, it's a pretty big number. So to have that expertise in negotiation to help your cause is tremendous. And can help lead to getting the best possible price and terms for the home that you want when you find, you know, exactly what you're looking for on the market. Additionally, you gain the help from a local expert. So we're showing homes constantly. We're in different neighborhoods. We're kind of all over the community, you know, in different neighborhoods. And, you know, a lot of times buyers want to know what amenities there are close by. What are the schools like? You know, what can I expect in this neighborhood, you know, from a pricing standpoint and all that. So, you know, that's what a buyer's agent does. They provide that additional detail to help make a decision. And, you know, I'm not going to say that we know everything about every neighborhood, but we certainly have the tools, and we can spend the time so that you don't have to, as a buyer, coming up with the answers to the questions that you might have around those things, and help you do that research, be your partner in that. Also, access to real-time local market data to help make informed decisions. So if you do find a house that's in a neighborhood, you're very interested in it, and you're just not sure, hey, is this price right? Then, you know, we have the tools to go back and say, hey, you know, that's something I can certainly take a look at. And we can pull the data and, you know, from a, you know, dollar price per square foot, what houses in that neighborhood and with those characteristics are selling for, and be useful when it comes time to writing an offer, to make sure that you're not overpaying and we're looking out for you and we're not giving the seller you know, deal of the century. So I guess the final point I want to talk about is, you know, just the fact, I mean, from all this information, the question becomes, do you feel better when someone's looking out for you? Because that's really what a buyer's agent brings to the table. I mean, we're there to help you make informed decisions, make good, solid decisions as you're looking for a home, and then help you through the process, because certainly everything never goes as planned. I mean, very rarely does everything happen the way you hope it does all the time. So having a partner there to hold your hand through it and to help you manage the stress or help you deal with the issues, I mean, that's where the tremendous value is. You just have a partner. You don't see professional sports teams go to the field without a coach. You just don't see that happen. I mean, having that partnership and somebody who can, you know, help you overcome obstacles when they come up is, you know, just huge. So a buyer's agent is legally obligated to protect your interests. Legally obligated. there's a written promise, there's an agreement called the buyer agency contract. And what that contract says is that that agent is going to be 100% loyal to you and work for you 100% and work to meet your needs. So, you know, that's not to be taken lightly. Okay, lastly, I guess the last point is actually what we do is offer unbiased advice and advocating on your behalf throughout the buying process. So that happens continuously, and you know, this is a relationship business, so I know in our brokerage that's our approach. Like, we care deeply about the relationship, and you know, not only during the time that you're actively looking and trying to buy a house, but you know, hopefully that will continue beyond that, that we're looking out for you and trying to keep you as an educated homeowner, even after, you know, closing, even after the sale is finalized. So I think that's all I have, and appreciate it.
Yeah, all right, Pete, thanks.
Thank you.
So we're gonna, now that you realize the value of having a agent, one that's gonna advocate for you, one that's going to look out for your interests, that is doing all those things to make sure that the home you're purchasing is going to suit your needs. Here are some 3 tips now to help you find the perfect home. And one of the biggest things that really, one of the biggest tips, that these other 2 tips kind of hinge off of this top one, is identifying the purpose of your home. So first thing I do with new clients is I say, what is this home's purpose? Is this a 3-year home? Is it a 5-year, 10-year? Is it a forever home? Once we can put that label on this home, we can then start figuring out what we need from it. What is it going to give us? And so having that in our back pocket and always referring back to that is really going to help us moving forward in figuring out the must-haves and and all that stuff. So after we've got that purpose, we move on to, let's create the must-have list. And you've probably heard that. Hey, here's our must-haves and here's our wish list, right? Now, when you create that, because you're going to do it whether you write it down or it's in your head, you're going to do it. Say, I need to have this barn. I need to have the basement. I need to have the pool. I need to have the kitchen, brand new kitchen. Always refer back to the purpose of your home. If you're buying a 3-year house, do you really need the house that's got the $1 million kitchen, right? Because in 3 years, that money you spent getting that house, maybe you can let that dream go of that kitchen because you're only going to be there for 3 years. Save that for your 5, 10, or forever home. So when you're creating that must-have list, always be referring back to the purpose of the home. If this is my forever home, yes, I'm going to get the kitchen I want. Yes, I'm going to get the yard I want. But if it's not, be prepared, those must-haves, be prepared to sacrifice some of those things. And then stay grounded. It's easy to get swooned. So when you walk into the house and you fall in love with it, you're going to say, okay, let's throw everything I got at it. I'm going to open up the bank. Step back, breathe, come back to reality. Know your limits, both physically and financially. Perhaps you're like, this is the yard I want. The house is a fixer-upper. We didn't want a fixer-upper, but we're going to do it. You've gotten swooned. You're falling out of what you wanted to do. This is a 3-year house. Do you really want to spend all 3 years renovating it? Those are sort of the things you need to always refer back to, your purpose. Okay? Now, financially too, you might find the house you absolutely love and say, you know what? This is the house we want. We're willing to empty our savings account just to get this house. If this is your 3-year house and you're having to pay over to get it, perhaps that's not the best move. So always check with your realtor. He's going to be keeping you in check. He or she is going to be keeping you in check, saying, hey, is this a house that's going to suit your needs? Is this the purpose? Or are you just caught up in the excitement of this home? So those are the 3 tips. And they all kind of hinge off of this first one. Identify the purpose of your home. create that must-have list, but be prepared to modify it based on the purpose of your home, and then stay grounded. It's easy to get swooned. It's easy to fall in love in a house. Don't get caught off guard. Rely on your agent for them to inform you and to instruct you the right ways to go. So those are my 3 tips. I'm going to hand it over to our special guest, Jake. Why don't you come on up? Jake Boes with Union Home Mortgage. We're going to briefly talk about what buyers need to know prior to going out and looking for a house.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yep.
So kind of the first step, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, a lot of times they want to see the house, right? They want to get into the house. Somebody finds a house, they're looking on Zillow, and they're kind of toying with the idea, and they decide, okay, I want to go see this house. What do? They call a realtor, right?
Yep,
They want to get into the home, they want to see the house, which is great. That's awesome. But really, they don't really know the ins and outs of the financing side or their personal finances as it pertains to getting a home loan. So getting that pre-approval before you see the house is just crucial. It's critical, it's dire. You look at the house, you fall in love with it just to find out you can't afford it, or maybe you don't love the house as much as you thought you did in the first place. All of these possibilities can happen, but having your finances in order ahead of time is so important. It's vital to the home buying process.
Yeah.
So getting that pre-approval.
Yeah, it's like going into battle with your gun loaded, ready to go, right? You wouldn't go with your ammo laying everywhere. Like that,
Right.
that's a violent analogy, but it still works, right? Like you want to make
Yeah.
sure that you are prepared.
And it's respectful to everybody. It's
Yeah.
respectful to your real estate agent to know, hey, you can actually afford this thing. It's respectful to the seller because they're going to have to leave the house to let you in. They're making some preparations to make it so that you can see the house in the first place. So
Absolutely.
it's just a respect thing. And it, like I said, it kind of makes it so that you're prepared. In the event that you do love it, you can write that offer on
Absolutely,
site.
absolutely, love that. Is there anything else we should know with how do you educate your buyers when it comes to how much money should they be setting aside? Should they have for closing costs? I know it can vary, but closing
Yeah.
costs, down payment, maybe appraisals, those
Sure.
sort of things. How much money should they have ready to go when they go to purchase a home?
Sure, that's a great question. So, you're right in that it does depend, and that's part of what we try to do is we try to learn about you. What is your tolerance level for payment? What do you have to work with as far as budget goes? There's an option for everybody virtually as it pertains to payment. Obviously, the lower down program, the more requirements there are going to be. That's just the nature of the beast, right? So you have to fall within those requirements, but we can work with virtually any budget as far as out-of-pocket costs go. But I will say, in terms of costs that you'll have as you're purchasing the home, you'll have that earnest money deposit, you'll have a home inspection, you'll have your appraisal costs ahead of time, which you figure all in all, probably between $2,000 and $3,000 that you'd spend, as before you even close on the house. So you want to make sure that you have that budgeted and set aside. I would say if you had 3% set aside at that point, 3% of the purchase price, you're in a pretty good spot, and you'll have some options. The less you have down, the more pigeonholed you get, and it becomes more difficult to pre-approve you just because you don't have as many options.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the things that, especially young first-time home buyers, is I realize they know the down payment. It was 20%. Now but it's gotten less and less and less, and they're like, oh, my parents told me I need 5%. I'm like, okay, that's great, but what about closing costs? And then they're like, oh, what is that?
What is that?
Yeah, right. So that's the other thing that we're educating a lot is, okay, down payment, great, you got that. What's closing costs? Do you have that or not? Now, if you don't have that, that's not, the deal's not dead there, right?
Right.
There's ways around that. What are the ones the way we do that?
Sure. So concessions is a great option, and that really just comes from the seller in essence. So if you need those closing costs covered and you only have your down payment, you only have your 3 or 5%, and you need help, we can ask for those from the seller and have it written as part of your purchase agreement. That's why the relationship between your lender and your real estate agent is so vital, because we can have those conversations and make sure that the offer is written in a way that makes the finances shake out the way you want them to shake out. So concessions is a great tool to do that. But yeah, as far as closing costs in general, you're probably looking, depending on how the offer is written, depending on the type of house, between $6,000 and $8,000 is pretty standard, I would say, as far as closing costs go. And that covers underwriting, appraisal, credit report, your escrow, your first year homeowner's insurance most of the time. There's a lot that kind of encompasses all those numbers. I know it sounds like a lot, but there's a lot that it also covers you.
Yeah, and depending on where you're buying, you know, the taxes vary greatly. So you're prepaying into those taxes a lot. And so that can, if you're buying in one county or the other, it really can vary how much you're paying out for closing costs.
Absolutely, and we can work those up as needed. As people run into homes, if they want to see what their out-of-pocket would be and their monthly payment would be, we can run those as needed as well.
Okay. Now, if someone calls me, says, hey, I want to go look at a house. I said, well, are you pre-approved? They say, no. And I send them over to you. How long does the process, what's it look like, and how long does it take for them to get that pre-approval?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're used to 15-minute pre-approvals, which aren't really pre-approvals.
Yeah.
We can do them same day. So, you know, the process front to back usually starts with about a 15-minute phone conversation, and that's just learning about you, your needs, what you're looking for as far as finances, what you're comfortable with, and then we do the loan application itself, which is basic information. From there, we would pull up the credit report. As long as everything looked good on the credit report, I would send you over a document checklist with what we'll need to really iron out your affordability, as well as what programs might be out there for you. And then after I have that, it's just kind of tightening the screws and making sure everything lines up well.
Okay. And then one final question. The terms conventional and FHA are thrown out a lot. Can you explain the difference between those two types of programs?
Absolutely. So it really is a matter of who's guaranteeing the loan. So on a conventional loan, you're talking about Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Those are the two entities that kind of handle the conventional side of things. And back in the day, these were totally private entities, but ever since the foreclosure crisis happened, the government subsidized, and they're still today considered what we call GSEs, which are government-sponsored enterprises. So they still operate independently with the government's oversight over them, right? And then on the FHA side of things, it's HUD who guarantees the loan. So it's the Department of Housing and Urban Development that runs that loan program.
Gotcha. Cool. And then that's why it's so important to have an agent that knows what program you're going with. If you're going with FHA, then when we go and look at houses, we're identifying what FHA items might be, or what items might be flagged during the FHA appraisal. So then we can be prepared ahead of time and negotiate those into our offer. So that's why it's so important that you have that pre-approval that identifies the program you're going with, and then you can work with your agent to write an offer that we're all prepared for. The seller's happy because they know what to expect. The buyer's happy because they know what to expect. It works out great for everyone.
There's enough surprises as it is. If we can eliminate as many surprises as possible, that's always a good thing.
Yeah, very good. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming
Appreciate
out.
you. Yeah, of course. Thank you.
And then, of course, if you need your pre-approval, seek out Jacob Boes, Union Home Mortgage. Contact Pete, contact me, contact Jenny. We'll get you set up. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.